and welcome to a Wow embossing powder video. I'm Christine and today we're going to be playing around with some gorgeous embossing powders to create a gorgeous Christmas card. So to start off with for this project, I've got my swatches here. I do recommend swatching out all of your powders so you can kind of see what they're going to look like when you actually heat emboss them. But to begin with for this, I want to create my own mixture of these two by sprinkling them onto a green piece of card rather than white. I thought we'd actually go for green just in case there's any holes in there and we can see the gorgeous green card through it. And I'm going to make a mixture, heat emboss it, and then die cut out the holly leaves from the heat embossed piece. So to do this, you want to take your Wow ultra slow drying clear embossing ink, make sure it's nicely inked up using your Freestyle tool to condition it, and then we're going to press this nice and firmly all over our green cardstock panel. And the nice thing about using a coloured cardstock actually is that you can see really clearly when the ink is going onto your card. It's a little bit easier to see than if you're just working on white cardstock. So we want to press our ink pad all over this. We can go all the way up to the edges, but because I've already got a piece done, I'm just going to do sort of 2/3 of this piece of cardstock for you. But you can press nice and firmly with your ink pad to get a nice lot of ink on there. Then we want to get a scrap piece of paper. And first of all, we want to go in with the Aurora Borealis, which is a beautiful glittery embossing powder. So we want to shake it up to make sure that all of that glitter is nicely distributed in there. And then we want to tap on a few sort of larger areas of this beautiful sparkle so that when we die cut our holly leaves for it, we're going to get a nice variation across the leaf. And then once we've got this much embossing powder on, we can tip off the excess. And then to make it less sort of blobby patches on here, just sprinkle a little bit of extra powder in a few different places, just so that it's not going to be quite so sort of blobby sparkly areas compared to the Castleton that we're going to put on there as well. So a few little sprinkles to tap off the excess of that, so we're now left with this. Then once we've put our powder away, make sure there's no glitter left on your scrap card, and then come in with the beautiful Castleton powder from the Heritage Quad from Seth Apter. I've shaken that before I opened it, and then we're going to sprinkle this over the rest of the background to cover it. And there we've got the start of our background, and we can then simply heat this from underneath. You want to make sure that your Wow heat embossing tool is nice and hot when you want to emboss your powders, and go from the back of the cardstock. This will stop you blowing off any of that beautiful glitter, and it will also give a really nice smooth finish as well. And you want to hold your heat tool in one place, sort of moving it around slightly, and once you see the powder change colour, you can move over to the next area. So here we have our gorgeous heat emboss piece with that lovely Aurora Borealis glitter mixed into there, and I've got a larger piece that I already prepared earlier, because when you are die cutting into something that you've heat embossed, you don't really want to do it whilst your card is still warm. So I thought if I've done one ahead of time, it kind of shows to you that you can leave it as long as you want to before you come round to die cutting it as well. You don't have to, you know, do it within the same day. This is one that I've done yesterday, and we'll see how brilliantly this die cuts as well. And I've also done a piece large enough to die cut out all of the holly leaves that I know that I want for this card. So firstly, I'm using this beautiful, gorgeous large holly leaf from the Twinkling Traditions die set from Tonic, which we can place onto here. And then, because it's a slightly odd sort of shape, this one, I don't want to waste the space that's left around it, so we're going to bring in some of the holly berry dies from Polka Doodles and use a couple of these smaller ones just to give us some more beautiful holly foliage. And we can actually die cut this in a couple of different areas to get some different holly leaf portions as well. So I'm now just going to take these into position and run them through my die cutting machine. So here we have our gorgeous holly dies with those beautiful variations of the two colours of embossing powder that we've used, and we've also got the Polka Doodles ones that have the debossing or cut line detail into them as well. It looks absolutely beautiful. Plus you could also make use of the negative pieces if you want to as well, possibly cut another one of the dies from just coloured cardstock and recess them back in, so maybe lay them out in a nicer position when you cut them, and you can do that too. But for this card, with this die set, with this beautiful holly leaf, we actually have some gorgeous filigree veining that you can adhere to the holly leaves as well. So I'm going to go through, and I've cut these just from green cardstock, and I'm going to stick those onto the holly leaves. These ones have already got their beautiful veining detail on there as well. For the sentiment of my card, I have taken the Merry Christmas die from the Twinkling Traditions set, and I've cut it from hollow waves and from white cardstock, and I'm going to stack those together. And then I've also cut a bunch of the foliage and berries from that same die set from hollow waves as well, and we're going to use this to kind of layer up our card. So I'll just stick those bits together and then come back. So now we've got all these pieces ready. I've got a piece of linen white cardstock just to add a little bit something extra to the background, and we're just going to place our elements on to see how we think they're going to look on our final card. So I feel like some kind of arrangement like that with our beautiful large holly leaves. Then I think these smaller ones would look really nice just sort of more in the background. So this, I've put 3D foam on the back of this large one, so it's going to be raised up a little bit, and if we use some of the smaller ones in the background kind of area, it's going to give that layered effect. And then to cover this stem up here, I think maybe we could add this holly leaf in a strategic place to kind of cover where that stem is there. So I think I'm going to put a little bit of 3D foam on the back of that leaf there as well, so that we can raise that up nicely too. So let's get these background pieces stuck down first. Then we know that this beautiful large piece is going to go over the top, and we're going to have that holly leaf just there as well. But we want to add in some gorgeous foliage that I've cut from hollow waves here as well. So I think if we just sort of place some of these in position, I kind of want this one maybe coming out from underneath the holly leaves, and another couple of those as well. And then maybe this one coming out more up here, just to kind of give some extra background interest that's quite subtle. I want some of these berries coming off of here as well. Maybe we could have some of these coming out from the side too, just to fill in that little gap there. I've got another berry frond here as well. Perhaps this could be coming up in this direction. And then I've got these small little ones here too that maybe we could have overlapping some of the holly leaves. So maybe bring those in as like extra elements that would be on the top of some of these pieces. So I think I like the layout of that. So I'm going to remove my holly leaves and try and keep those in the same position so that I can stick these down now. So now those are in position, we can add our large holly leaves back over the top, just making sure that we can still see the bits and pieces we've just stuck down. And then we can add this on with our 3D foam that I've already put just a nice bit of 3D foam behind each of the leaves, and then I will put a little bit of glue just on the end of the stem here, and then we can position this on our card. And the stems on these holly leaves are quite delicate, so you can kind of position the leaves exactly where you want them to be as well. You can manoeuvre them a little bit. Then we've got this one to go up here and hide where the end of that stem doesn't touch the edge of the card. So I've got a little bit of 3D foam on that one leaf, and then I'm going to add glue on the others so they'll stick flat down to the card, like so. And then I've got another one of these little silver ones that I think I'm going to put over the top. Like so. And now we've got all of that stuck into position, we can pick this up, flip it over, take our long bladed pair of scissors and just trim along the outside edges so nothing is overhanging our card blank. We do have one of the holly leaves overhanging here, which I don't mind that overhanging, so I think I'm going to leave that. So we can move all of those little bits and pieces out of the way, and then we've got our sentiment as well. Now there is a little bit here where the ends of these foliage pieces isn't covered, so I want to put my sentiment just there right in the middle, but it's getting a little bit lost because it's you know, such a skinny kind of sentiment and it's cut out of white cardstock. So The easiest thing to do is get a scrap of vellum and just tear it into a rough rectangle that we can put behind our Merry Christmas sentiment. And we can sort of adjust this as we feel fit. If we don't want to cover up too much of that beautiful embossing powder, we can make this a little bit smaller so that some of the words are kind of hanging over the edges, but the majority of it is kind of made more prominent by that little piece of torn vellum behind there. Maybe a little bit smaller. There we go, and then that just hides any little end pieces there, and the sentiment will stand out really nicely. So we can just add this to our vellum. Add the vellum to the card as well. And when we're doing this, we're placing our glue dots behind the sentiment that we stuck on there, so we won't be able to see the adhesive on the vellum. And then we can just press this into position. And all we need to do now is add it onto our card blank. And then there we have our finished beautiful Christmas card using some of the Aurora Borealis embossing powders from Brennan, Keane, and also the Castleton embossing powder from Seth Apter in his Heritage Quad. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye!